What, 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 what,
The election of 1812 was a turn in American political and social life. A new political party was made, and the nation's concept of democracy expanded in some ways and narrowed in others. The era was famous because of Andrew Jackson. In 1824, President James Monroe announced he will not run for president again. There was only one political party at the time, and the nation was united in its purpose and direction. However, obvious differences came to be in the election of 1824, like the four leading Democratic Republicans that hoped to replace James Monroe.
All right. Yeah. I beat you.
I should have won. I won the popular vote, and many southern states and western part of the country supported me, Massachusetts.
I had the northeastern support, though.
Well, west side till I die.
North side represent.
You only won because we tied, and the House of Reps had to determine the president, and your little friend Clay helped you so that he could get appointed Secretary of State. You cheater, pumpkin eater.
Jackson's opposition weakened Adams'
Hey, so did you know that in 1824 the presidential election went on and a growing number of states chose their presidential electors based on popular vote? Girl, I don't know that. Tell me more. There was a shift from the method used in the first presidential election in which state legislators chose electors. And then in 1836, every state except Carolina chose electors based on popular vote. Voters had an increased role in choosing state and local officials across the country. Quit playing with me. Yeah, I'm serious. In 1810s and 1820s, various states rewrote their constitutions. They added things like allowing any white man who paid taxes or owned a farm or land to vote and hold office. The new constitution did not allow free black men or women to vote. Urepai. Yup, democracy was limited to white men only.
But I am a symbol of democracy, Jacksonian democracy. I have gotten my name and support because of my humble past and military fame. My supporters now call themselves Democrats, not Democratic Republicans. With the Jacksonian democracy, I won 56% of the popular vote and 2/3 of the electoral votes. How do you feel about that, Adams? Can you taste the salt?
You only won because of my member and support.
Well, I promise to return the Jeffersonian principles, which are where the strong states wouldn't interfere in slavery.
These are the principles that can keep sectional tension from destroying our disciplined system of local and state committees and conventions. Our great President Jackson appealed to all of you by holding a great public rally just like this one. Unlike Adams, Jackson will replace 100 of government officials.
As my first presidential act, I will appoint a very special person as Secretary of State, Martin Van Buren.
That's me.
Woo!
Your use of political jobs as a reward for party loyalty is spoil system.
Shut up.
On behalf of all the whites in the South, we want the land that's rightfully ours, which is occupied by those Native Americans.
Any person what's going on in the planet Earth right now.
Well, right now it's between 1827 and 1830. The states of Georgia, Mississippi, and Alabama dissolved the Indian government and seized the lands demanded by the Southern whites. John Marshall's Supreme Court tried to help the Indians with the Worcester versus Georgia case, which ruled the land seizure in Georgia unconstitutional. The federal government, however, had treaty obligations to protect the Indians in court and decided that the federal law was superior to state law. Jackson ignored the court's decision and passed the Indian Removal Act, however, in 1830.
Is that it?
No, Choctaws and Chickasaw Indians in the southeastern lands reluctantly agreed to leave for new lands in the west. Then President Jackson continued to try and convince other Indians to sell their lands and move west. A group of Cherokees in 1835 went to go make the deal with the government. Even though many of the other in the Cherokee tribe refused, that small group of reps made the deal to move from the southeastern lands to Oklahoma. To make sure this was a deal that would be accomplished, the U.S. soldiers went to accompany the members of the tribe into Oklahoma. Their walk, where about 4,000 Indians died from disease, exposure, and hunger, became known as the Trail of Tears. Many other Indians tried resisting, but only led to violence, death of their loved ones, and loss of their lands. Indians weren't the only problems that the nation had. The North and the South were divided by their beliefs. Congress adopted a huge tariff in 1828, the Tariff of Abominations.
Wow.
We know this is only to make Adams look bad, and well, we never liked him anyways, so we'll pass the tariff.
I happen to agree, and I heard Adams accepted it.
Great, this is going to get me many votes. After this, Adam will lose his support in the South.
Okay. No, it's a horrible idea. Don't you see? You should work on enforcing the act of nullification.
Excuse you? Who's in charge here? That's me. So, go away. Just to show you though, I'll reduce the price on the tariff.
Fine, do as you want. And oh, just to please you, I will go away. I resign. I'd rather go to be a senator than your vice president. Before I leave, you might also want to know that the South Carolina state legislature nullified the protective tariff and prohibited the collection of federal tariff duties in South Carolina. If your federal government employs force on them, they threaten to secede from the union. Liberty and union, now and forever, one and inseparable.
Webster thought the Union to be a creation of the American people instead of the states. In 1833, Webster led the wave of a force bill, giving Jackson authority to use troops to enforce federal law in Southern California. Congress reduced the tariff, which also caused Southern Carolina's militancy to reduce. A convention in March made a political statement by nullifying the low unnecessary force bill, which passed the crisis, but the actual question on nullification and succession had been put off rather than resolved.
I have now become a supporter of the agricultural South. I wish to review Jefferson's ideal of an agrarian republic where all the white men own farms and enjoy rough
But industrialization worked against his vision. More Americans moved to cities to work in industries for low wages instead of working on their farms. It was hard to distinguish between the wealthy and the poor since wealth was now measured in bank versus land.
My followers think that the new economy encourages corruption and greed, especially since industries look for special privileges like protective tariffs or federal subsidies for roads or canals. Industries claim that these advantages promoted economic growth, but they didn't. My followers and I believe that they are just trying to enrich the wealthy people at the cost of everyone else, which is the poor people. We especially dislike the Second Bank of the U.S., which was chartered by Congress in 1811. It seemed dangerous and corrupt that investors and many business leaders were behind that. However, people thought that the bank was a good idea. I don't know why, and they believed it promoted economic growth by providing a stable currency in which people could have confidence. They thought a lack of confidence in money supply could cause serious harm in the economy. In 1832, when Congress voted to review the bank charter, I vetoed the renewal because I don't believe in the government should advance the few at the cost of many.
The bank supporters denounced Jackson as a tyrant, trampling on the rights of Congress. They were shocked by the veto because not many presidents have vetoed before, only 9 times in 42 years. Nationalists formed a group known as the Whigs who wanted a strong federal government to manage the economy, favored the American system of protective tariffs and internal improvements in the national bank. The Whigs appealed to North Protestants who wanted the government to promote moral reforms. The Whigs Party restored a two-party politics in the U.S. for the next 20 years. The Whigs challenged Jackson's Democrats in state and national elections. In 1832, they elected Henry Clay to go against Jackson in president.
I won!
I'm the VP.
Jackson attacked the second bank of the U.S. by removing federal funds and placing them in state banks. The bank's destruction weakened the economy. State banks expanded, however, inflating prices. In 1836, Jackson retired, and in the same year, Martin Van Buren became president. After Martin Van Buren took office, the economy suffered a severe panic. This was due to the fact that before Jackson retired, he decided to stop accepting paper money for the purchase of federal lands. This caused a drop in land values and sales. Hundreds of banks that had invested in the lands went bankrupt. Farmers and planters lost their lands, and 1 out of 3 urban workers lost their jobs. Those who were fortunate enough to keep their jobs saw their wages drop by
Damn, dude, I lost 30% of my money. I know, I'm broke. I used to be pimping and bought, and now I ain't got no moolah. This is probably the worst depression ever.
This depression revived the Whigs. They ran Henry Harrison, or as they called him, Old Tip, for president and John Tyler for vice president. Their campaign became heavy with theatrics that would become common in American politics and light on ideas.
Now, this is my job. I will not quit it. Pulled me out the depths when I thought that I was finished. Yeah, I question if I could go the distance. That's just the work, regardless of who's listening. Listen. See, I was meant to be a warrior, fight something amongst me, leave here victorious, classroom with kids, or a venue performing if I done it for the money.
John Tyler vetoed Congress legislation to restore the Bank of the U.S. and to enact Clay's American system. Whigs would have to wait for future elections to exercise full control of
And we danced, and we cried, and we laughed, and had a really, really, really good time. Take my hand, let's have a blast, and remember this moment for the rest of our lives.
That's all you have to say. Wait, should I
the paper now. Dude, guess what? But other than that,
Tonight.
yes.